Page 54, starting over. We went home a week later, but not before Grandmère took us to a very special place, the village she grew up in. It seemed amazing to me that she had never told Dad the whole Torteau story. The only thing he knew was that a family in Daneviere had helped her during the war, but she had never told him any of the details. She'd never told him that his own grandmother had died in a concentration camp. Maman, how come you never told me any of this? Dad asked her while we were driving in the car to her village. Oh, you know me, Jules, she answered. I do not like to dwell on the past. Life is ahead of us. If we spend too much time looking backward, we can't see where we're going. Much of the village had changed. Too many bombs and grenades had been dropped. Most of the original houses had been destroyed in the war. Grandmare's school was gone. There was really nothing much to see, just Starbucks and shoe stores. But then we drove to Deneviere, which is where Julian had lived. That village was intact. She took us to the barn where she had stayed for 2 years. The old farmer who lived there now let us walk around and take a look. Grandmère found her initials scrawled in a little nook in one of the horse stalls, which is where she would hide under piles of hay whenever the Nazis were nearby. Grandmère stood in the middle of the barn with one hand on her face as she looked around. She seemed so tiny there. How are you doing, Grandmère? I asked. Me? Well, she said, smiling. She tilted her head. I lived. I remember thinking when I was staying here that the smell of horse manure would never leave my nostrils. But I lived. And Jules was born because I lived. And you were born. So what is the smell of horse manure against all that? Perfume and time make everything easier to bear. Now, there's one more place I want to visit. We drove about 10 minutes away to a tiny cemetery on the outskirts of the village. Grandmère took us directly to a tombstone at the edge of the graveyard. There was a small white ceramic plaque on the tombstone. It was in the shape of a heart, and it read, Ici reposent Vivienne Baumière, née le 27th d'Avril 1905, décédée le 21st de Novembre 1985. Jean-Paul Baumière, né le 15th de Mai 1901, décédé le 5th de Juillet 1985. Marie-Pierre de Julian Auguste Baumière, né le 10th de Octobre 1930, tombé en juin 1944. Vous est-il toujours marché les forêts dans les jardins de Dieu? I looked at Grandmère as she stood looking at the plaque. She kissed her fingers and then reached down to touch it. She was trembling. They treated me like their daughter, she said, tears rolling down her cheeks. She started sobbing. I took her hand and kissed it. Mom took Dad's hand. What does the plaque say? She asked softly. Dad cleared his throat. Here rests Vivienne Baumière, he translated softly, and Jean-Paul Baumière, mother and father of Julian Auguste Baumière, born October 10th, 1930, killed June 1944. May he walk forever tall in the garden of God. New York. We got back to NYC a week before my new school was scheduled to start. It was nice being in my room again. My things were all the same, but I felt, I don't know, a little different. I can't explain it. I felt like I really was starting over. I'll help you unpack in a minute, said Mom, running off to the bathroom as soon as we stepped through the door. I'm good, I answered. I could hear Dad in the living room listening to our answering machine messages. I started unpacking my suitcase, then I heard a familiar voice on the machine. I stopped what I was doing and walked into the living room. Dad looked up and paused the machine. Then he replayed the message for me to hear. It was Augie Pullman. Oh, hi, Julian, said the message. Yeah, so, I just want to tell you I got your note, and, yeah, thanks for writing it. No need to call me back. I just wanted to say hey. We're good. Oh, and by the way, It wasn't me who told Tushman about the notes, just so you know, or Jack or Summer. I really don't know how he found out. Not that it matters anyway. So, okay. Anyway, I hope you like your new school. Good luck. Bye. Click. Dad looked at me to see how I would react. Wow, I said, I didn't expect that at all. You gonna call him back? Asked Dad. I shook my head. I answered, I'm too chicken. Dad walked over to me and put his hand on my shoulder. I think you've proven that you're anything but chicken, he said. I'm proud of you, Julian. Very proud of you. He leaned over and hugged me. Tu marches toujours le fond haut. I smiled. I hope so, Dad. I hope so. The end. RJ Palacio lives in New York City with her husband, 2 sons, and 2 dogs. For more than 20 years, she was an editorial director, an art director, and a graphic designer working on books for other people while waiting for the perfect time in her life to start writing her own novel. But one day, several years ago, a chance encounter with an extraordinary child from an ice cream store made RJ realize that the perfect time to write that book had finally come. Wonder is her first novel. She did not design the cover, but she sure does love it. Choose kind.